Have you ever stopped to think that something you do like every single day might actually be against the law? No, seriously. We're talking about rules so strange, so specific, and so old, you would never in a million years guess they're still on the books. So today, we are diving deep into America's weirdest laws, and you might just be an accidental criminal.
I mean, just think about it. Ever wondered if your lunch is illegal? Yeah, you heard that right. Believe it or not, depending on where you are and what you're eating, that afternoon meal could actually land you in some hot water. So, what exactly are these bizarre culinary crimes? Let's find out.
All right, let's kick things off with some of the most head-scratching food laws out there. And the crazy part is, these are technically still enforceable. A lot of these rules were designed to solve these super specific problems from a totally different time. And honestly, they tell you a lot about America's, well, colorful history.
First up, you're not going to believe this one. In the great state of Connecticut, a pickle isn't legally considered a pickle unless it bounces. I know, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, right? But it actually comes from a surprisingly practical place. See, back in the day, inspectors would use the bounce test as a quick and dirty way to spot vendors who were trying to sell spoiled or even counterfeit pickles. So, a bouncy pickle meant a safe pickle.
Okay, it gets even weirder. This next one seems completely random, but it's tied to a pretty serious crime. In Alabama, it is illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket. Why on earth would that be a law? Well, it was actually a clever trick used by horse thieves. They'd stick a cone in their pocket, and a horse would follow them, lured by the sweet treat. Technically, they weren't leading the horse, which created this weird legal loophole. So the law was created to shut that down.
Oh, and the list just goes on. In Gainesville, Georgia, they call it the poultry capital of the world, it's actually illegal to eat fried chicken with a fork. You have to use your hands. Then you've got Kansas, where serving wine in a teacup is against the law. That's a leftover from old temperance movements trying to stop people from hiding their booze. And get this, in North Carolina, you could go to jail for stealing used restaurant grease. Why? Because that stuff gets recycled into valuable biofuel. It's basically liquid gold.
So yeah, these laws are pretty funny, but they're really just the tip of the iceberg. They're all part of a much bigger, much older legal tradition that used to control almost everything people did, especially on one specific day of the week. So that's the big question, right? Where did all these strange rules actually come from?
Well, to really get it, we have to go way back. I'm talking back to the 17th century, to understand something called blue laws. And their story really kicks off with some of America's earliest and, let's be honest, most famously strict settlers, the Puritans.
So what even is a blue law? Simple, really. At its heart, it was a rule designed to make sure Sunday, the Sabbath, was kept holy. Blue laws basically banned a whole bunch of activities on Sundays. Things like working, shopping, even just having fun, all to make sure the day was for rest and religious observance.
Now, this tradition didn't stay stuck in the past. It evolved over hundreds of years. You know, back in the 1600s, these laws were super religious. Fast forward to 1961, and the Supreme Court actually upheld them, but for a totally different reason. They said the purpose had become secular, basically to give everyone a uniform day of rest. And now, today, even though most of these laws have been thrown out, a surprising number are still around, just in these really weird, warped forms.
And if you want to know just how seriously people took these rules, listen to this story. Imagine you're a ship captain. You've been at sea for 3 long years. You finally get home, you see your wife on the doorstep, you give her a kiss, and you get thrown in the public stocks for lewd and unseemly behavior. That actually happened to a guy named Captain Kemble in Boston. And his only crime? His happy reunion took place on a Sunday.
Okay, so how in the world did we get from punishing a guy for kissing his wife to regulating whether pickles bounce or when you can buy a car? Well, the story of how these super religious laws survived into the modern world, it's really a story about politics, money, and a ton of loopholes.
So here's what happened. As time went on, the original religious reasons for these laws started to fade away, but the laws themselves, they stuck around, and they became a tool for special interest groups. You had different industries lobbying politicians to carve out exceptions that helped their business while keeping the restrictions in place for their competition. Sneaky, right?
And this isn't just a theory, it's really well documented. One Stanford law and policy review paper called the result a contradictory and patchwork system. I mean, that just nails it, right? The goal wasn't about a day of rest anymore. It was all about getting a leg up on the competition. And that's how we ended up with all these completely illogical rules.
So if you look at what's left of these blue laws today, they're mostly clustered in a few key areas. The big ones you'll still run into are restrictions on buying alcohol, buying cars, hunting on Sundays, and certain types of shopping. And trust me, each one is a total minefield of weird exceptions and local rules.
And this is where it gets just completely nuts. Check this out. In Indiana, you can't buy packaged beer at a grocery store on Sunday, but you can go to an in-state brewery and get it to go. In New Jersey, you can't buy a car on Sunday, but a motorcycle? Totally fine. And in Massachusetts, most retail stores have to be closed unless they happen to sell auto parts for emergency use. You can literally see the ghost of some old lobbying deal in every single one of those exceptions.
Which, of course, brings us to the big debate today. I mean, we live in a world of 24/7 online shopping and all kinds of different beliefs. So do these ancient restrictions make any sense anymore? Let's just say the arguments for finally getting rid of them for good are really starting to stack up.
The legal challenges are coming from all sides. You've got the First Amendment argument, which is the most obvious one, right? Does a law based on a Christian day of rest violate the separation of church and state? Then there's the 14th Amendment, which says everyone gets equal protection. Critics ask how it's equal when all these weird exceptions favor one business over another. And then some rules, like that Indiana beer law, are being challenged for unfairly helping in-state businesses.
But look, even beyond all the legal jargon, there's just a simple common sense argument here. We live in the internet age. The whole idea of banning sales at a brick-and-mortar store on a Sunday seems totally pointless when you can just pull out your phone and buy literally anything you want, anytime you want. These laws don't really stop commerce, they just hurt local businesses.
And here's the thing, getting rid of these laws can have real positive effects. Just look at the bans on Sunday hunting. The states that have repealed them, they've seen more money come in from licenses, from tourism, from people buying gear. And on top of that, it gives hunters an extra day to help control overpopulated deer populations, which is actually really good for the whole ecosystem.
So it all comes down to this one big question. Are these weird ancient laws just harmless, quirky pieces of history? Or are they actually undermining modern business and even our personal freedoms with how arbitrary and contradictory they've become? It's definitely something to think about the next time you head out for Sunday brunch or, maybe think twice before you put that ice cream cone in your back pocket.